Welcome to Think Like a Dog podcast, where we explore dog behavior and psychology-based training to help your dog achieve their full potential. Welcome back to Think Like a Dog podcast. Today we're on episode 19 and we have Connor here with us today. Connor has been in previous episodes with us, and today we're going to talk all about the walk. We've had many people ask about structured walks since we talk so much about it, and it's such a big component in creating a really good relationship with your dog. So, we've gathered also some questions from our social media that people dropped for us, and we're going to be answering those in the end. But we're going to start talking first about what is a structured walk. What does that even mean?
It's definitely something where a lot of our owners, they take their dog on a walk every day. And they assume, hey, as long as my dog's tired at the end of the walk, it's the goal has been met. But really, when we think about a structured walk, we really want the owner to be in the lead of that walk, and I really think that is the basis of the structured walk. And I think how you attain that, how owner really makes it clear to their dog that they're the ones leading that walk. It looks different for each dog. But in general, I think that would be the main kind of tying, like the main common theme across the board.
Yeah, I think it's a matter of looking at the leash walk less as something that you do as this like exciting thing, kind of what you said of it's not to drain the energy of the dog. It's to practice your relationship with the dog of I lead, you follow. We tell people all the time, when you are walking with your dog, you're simulating migration, right? Which is a very almost kind of sacred instinctual ritual for the dog. And in that ritual, somebody leads and somebody follows. So we really stress to our clients that in order for your dog to feel safe out in the world, you need to have a relationship with them where they know that anything that they could potentially come across that they don't understand, they can look to you for direction. That matters exponentially more on the leash walk. So that's why we really stress, structured leash walks.
With structured leash walks, what are some key points that you guys can give us of what that would look like? So, people that are listening in, they can kind of picture that of how that would be.
I think the main thing we think of is definitely behind our leg. I mean, if that's not currently going on, that being the goal in mind of that, just that physical positioning of, hey, space is a big resource for our dogs, and that space alone of who's in front, who's behind plays a large role in just what they're getting out of the structured walk. And then the other thing would be just relevancy. I think that's a large thing that a lot of our owners struggle with. And just like I said about kind of the leading and following, it looks different for each dog. But just making sure that our dogs know where to look to when they get stressed out. And we really stress the structured walk because, there's a comfort bubble that all of our dogs have, and that structured walk is kind of the daily activity that they can basically, and this may sound weird to a lot of dogs or a lot of owners, but it's the one daily activity they can bank on something stressing them out. And
it would sound weird to a lot of dogs too.
that as well. And normally, like the reason I say that sounds weird is because it's a lot of people don't view, the everyday dog owner doesn't view the walk as a stressful thing. Mm-hmm. But that's where we see a miscommunication, and see that response to arousal is indeed, whether it's anxiety or fear, it is stress. And just, really the main goal of that structured walk being getting better at dealing with stress every time we're going out of our comfort zone.
Yes, absolutely. With a structured walk, the first thing is going to be who is leading and who's following. So what Connor said of having that dog either by your leg or behind you a little bit, you're navigating through potentially new territory. And if it's not new territory, if it's the same neighborhood that you walk in every time, there's still different smells. There's still different things that are happening. And it's really important to see the walk from your dog's perspective, even your more excited dog. It might seem like the most fun thing in the world. as long as everything is exactly how that dog wants it to be, or normal and familiar to the dog. But the second that something different happens, we want to make it, very clear to the dog that we are the one that gets to make the decision about how to deal with that. So a structured walk is something where the human leads, the dog follows. The human is setting the tone, the pace of how fast are we going, which direction are we going, what distractions are we paying attention to. The human is making all of the decisions on the walk. So then that way, when something happens, and this is something that I get all the time in sessions, when a dog passes, when a human passes, when a car passes, something, right? The dog is very comfortable looking to the human for, okay, what do I do here? Because you have made all the decisions up until this point. So it's normal for me to look to you to make a decision about this new thing that might be a little overwhelming to me.
Yeah, it's really rare for you to see a dog and an owner walking next to each other. That's just not what we envision when we're thinking, I'm taking my dog out for a walk. We think it's totally normal for them to just walk in front of us. Mm-hmm. Now, to start a structured walk, we talked about this on a previous episode, and I think it's important for us to go a little bit more in depth of there is a way that you start that walk, to initiate that walk and that mindset. How would that go?
For me, I think the two big things I think owners go wrong with is before they're out the door, and we've probably talked about it on this podcast before. But setting our dogs up to still be calm before we're even out the door in our movement rather, and just making sure that they know the goal is to be calm even before we're out the door. That, and then two, not reinforcing or not continuing on your walk until that dog's actually following you. So I do hear, when clients come in for the first time, they'll say, hey, he's not bad on leash. He listens on leash. He just has to get, 10, 20 minutes of walking
I hear that all the time.
Yeah. So that's something where I'm like, okay, it's good to know that, okay, that stamina is not going to last forever. But I do want a dog that's coming out the door with me in that following state of mind, because they're creatures of habit. And when we really make it, from point A to point B, we want your attention, that deals away with any confusion and kind of miscommunication of when we are dealing with uncontrollable things that inside the house we don't have to deal with, but outside of the house we have no clue when or how they're going to happen. How we handle those things is by practicing not around those uncontrollable things.
Well, and I mean, on a surface level too, it's how can you guarantee that the second that you walk out of your house, there's not going to be your dog's trigger on the other side of the door, right? We tell people all the time that the leash walk starts the second you pick up that leash, the second that you are putting your shoes on, whatever it is that signals to your dog that the leash walk is about to happen. It is so important to make sure that you are setting the tone for the remainder of the walk. It is, I think, very normal for a dog to be a little bit more amped at the beginning of the walk than they are towards the end, obviously. But you shouldn't, we talked about this in the exercise episode, you shouldn't have to have a tired dog to have a well-behaved one. The goal for the walk is neutrality from start to finish. The goal for the walk is offering your dog that one exercise that doesn't involve excitement. That is actually a really almost like this kind of, it's not robotic. It's almost like this very neutral following state of mind where they get to kind of go into this Zen mode where I don't have to pay attention to everything around me. I don't have to worry about what's over there. I get to just move, right? And that's so natural for our dogs. But starting that, a lot of times, I cannot tell you how many times people will go, do you want to go for a walk? You want to go outside? You want to go for a car ride? You want to go do this? You want to eat food, right? And then they come into the center because their dog is too excited on the walk when they are the ones that started the excitement. Yeah. So it's really important. I have a client, I think just the other day, I told them, if you can't get the leash on your dog without him biting you, which was the issue, right? Then that's your walk, is practicing putting the leash on and taking it off. Because if you can't lead your dog in the house, if you can't even apply the thing that your dog is very aware is the thing that controls them, right? If they aren't giving up enough control for you to apply this leash, you are not going to have any say-so over the decision making when the dog sees another dog, which he was there for leash reactivity. So sometimes that walk is going in and out the front door. Sometimes that walk is on a rainy day, especially going up and down your stairs, or, we do treadmill training, things like that. That's not the walk though. That's not a relationship builder. That's a confidence builder, if anything. But it doesn't have to look like this linear, we have to go around the whole neighborhood or go for this amount of miles. We do leash drills a lot. We always set the tone with leash drills, and those leash drills, like you said, Connor, can look different based on what level where the dog needs to work.
Yeah. And what I was talking about when, the first mistake about not leaving the door, right? And that we call those thresholds of getting a sit, getting eye contact, making sure we're calm and we're connected before leaving that door. But like Millie said, it even goes further back than that. You really do want to start with that leash, and especially with our owners who are very used to talking to their dog a lot. It's more of an exercise for yourself, but that's what people don't get about dog training is I get that probably once a session of, oh, this training is for me. And it's
all
like,
the time.
Yeah. That is what the training is for, but you can't necessarily advertise that. But it's super important to work on yourself, because that's ultimately
you have to know where you started it, like what you played into this, and not that, okay, I have this thing of the difference between dog training or a well-trained dog and a well-behaved dog. A well-trained dog can make its body do something different than how it's feeling, right? A well-trained dog is asked to do things differently with all of the same information, regardless, right? Or do the same thing with different information. So let's say, a well-trained dog can sit regardless of and stay regardless of if there's nobody there or there's a party there, right? Training to me, as what we think of it, right, is very human-centered. So it's very much, let's get the dog to not be an inconvenience to the human, so the human can continue doing exactly what they want to do and not have to shift or change based on the dog's behavior, right? I want a well-behaved dog. I want a dog who eventually can make a decision based on our relationship, based on everything that we've practiced with them. So I have to shift and change based on what I want from my dog. So if I want a calm dog on the walk, I need to be calm. I think it's a very unfair ask to say, okay, well, I want my dog to not freak out when they see another dog, or I want my dog to not pull on the end of the leash, right? But then we're the ones that's saying, do you want to go for a walk, or chasing them around and just kind of throwing the leash on them and getting through that part, and just kind of, even I think it's unfair to ask that when every single other time that you have walked and that dog is pulled, you've still gone for a walk. It's worked. That's what the pattern is.
With starting the walk too, Jill mentioned something before that was even big for me, because I wasn't really aware of how that linked to our connection, is making sure your dog does potty breaks before the walk, and then just focusing on your walk and your connection during that time you guys start moving, and not focus on letting them stop and go to the, go potty every time. Just get that out the way first, and then focus on your connection while you guys walk together.
You have rules for the walk. So no tracking, meaning like I don't allow my dog's nose to the ground while I'm moving with them, right? So if I'm moving, I better be, what you said, Connor, the most relevant thing to you. Like I said, I do not want a robot. I don't want like that. It's very cool. Don't get me wrong. It's just a very different type of training. I don't want that Belgian Malinois that's like wrapped around my leg, looking and staring into my soul. I think that's creepy. I want to just like walk, I think it's cool to like be able to get a dog to do that. But most people just want their dog to kind of connect with them, right? But so no tracking, no fixating, right? You can't be like just staring down other people, other dogs, squirrels, things like that. No marking on the walk. And like I said, you match my speed, you match my direction. I decide what distractions we're paying attention to. And the marking thing is, I think, a big one. Marking is a little bit different than potty breaks, but because your dog, I know a lot of dogs that can go to the bathroom and empty their bladder right before the walk, but they're still going to want to stop and mark every single thing that they see.
Yeah, and that kind of goes back to the balance scale of decision makings, right? Of I'll get the question of, when can I let them sniff? When can I let them go to the bathroom? And all of that is good. Like, that's good stuff when you're chilling out in the backyard, not with a goal in mind, right? But when you have a goal in mind, your dog's gonna know that, and your dog is very smart, so they will do whatever in their power to not do that goal and do what they want, right? And so it doesn't even have to be using the bathroom or kind of sniffing like a lot of owners think. I see scratching the neck. I see a lot of stuff that, in our human brains, we're like, oh, he doesn't like the feeling on his neck. Oh, he's got allergies. We need to go inside. When in reality, it's really just about that ounce of control and just who's making the decisions in that scenario. And that's where I really hesitate. Hey, go just let your dog sniff, because that's really showing them, hey, I can just go do this, and then it's my world, we're living in it.
Absolutely. And there's a time and place for that, for sure. Like I think we would not get any clients if we told people your dog is not allowed to go to the bathroom, like at all. You have to just keep walking, even if they're going to the bathroom actively. I think it's a matter of whose idea was it, and in being fair to the dog. So let's say you do take them out to go to the bathroom right before you start, and maybe they peed, but they have to go to the they have to go poop, and then you're on a walk and you're going 10 minutes in. Okay, well, we're acting kind of weird. Let me stop for a potty break. Right? Not that they're pulling me over to this place. It's about, and I say this all the time too, if you are asking your dog to be connected to you on the walk, you better be willing to connect back. That is huge for me. There are so many times, I'm getting very passionate. There are so many times that I am driving down the road and I see people, looking at their phone while they're walking, or, talking on the phone while they're walking, and their dog is they are either being dragged by their dog or their dog is being dragged by them. Like, there is no connection there. It's like, I think I said this in a previous episode, you can see a relationship, like what the relationship is like between the dog and the human, just by looking at the leash walk. It's like watching a couple on a date, right? You can normally tell, is this their first date? Are they married? Have they been married for 50 years? Like, what's the relationship look like? You can tell that by the walk. But a lot of people want their dog to connect to them, but they are so worried about everything else. For owners of leash reactive dogs, they are worried about, where's the other dog coming from? Is there another dog coming out of this door or this door? We normally react here. Are we going to? So they're connected to literally everything that they are asking their dog to not be connected to, right? Or we are just going through the motions with our dog, when this is something that, for a religious person, that would be like bringing your partner with you to church and they're sitting on their phone the whole time. Like, that's what the walk is to your dog. It's a huge ritual for them. And if you are not connected with them during that, you cannot expect them to connect back to you.
And I think that like that feeling that you get when you're connected with a dog is something that sadly like 90% of dog owners don't even know what it feels like. And that does require being calm with your dog, and your calm being the loudest thing in the equation, right? But we don't just welcome a client in and say, hey, be calm, right? Like, that's not
fair.
Yeah, that's not what we do. There's a lot of skill set and there's a lot of exercises and drills to get you to the point where the one thing you can focus on is staying calm and focusing on your own energy level. So that's why we're not just like, hey, go be calm. And it is multifaceted, although it is a simple thing.
It's also something that's a good point, because on the human side, yes, I am a big fan of earning that confidence, earning that calm, because most people who walk into the center have every reason to not be calm, because their dog is, they're fighting for their life on the walk, right? They are white knuckling every single walk that they are doing. So in their experience, it makes sense for them to not be calm when they are holding their dog's leash. So they have to learn a different way while their dog learns a different way. But I tell people who come in for a first session, let's say the dog is leash reactive, but also struggles with reacting to strangers at the door. Like, it's not just leash reactivity, because it's normally never just leash reactivity. Your dog pulling you on the walk, it's never just pulling you. Everything is relationship, right? So if I have an owner who comes in and maybe the surface, kind of the tip of the iceberg issue is leash reactivity, but then I kind of poke at it a little bit more and I see, okay, we've got a lot more problems. They just have figured out a way to Band-Aid those problems, so that's why they're not here for those. But I will tell people, don't walk them until the next time I see you, because we need to add rules. We need to have boundaries inside. We need, to do crate training, place work, things like that. Because if I just go out and walk your dog past all of these triggers and I ask them to respond differently, that I haven't changed the why. I haven't changed why your dog is responding like this. And that's normally because of how we spend the time inside the house, or how we spend the time walking our dog when there isn't another trigger around. So I always, if it's a leash reactive dog, we don't start on the walk. We start inside, how we spend 95% of our time with our dog. And then when we do start on the walk, we start on the foundation of that. Meaning, like, we're going to do leash drills back and forth, because your dog is learning a new skill. You're learning a new skill. You're learning to relax your arm while you walk, which I have said the words "relax your arm" more than I have said my own name in my life. Right? It's a lot. But you're learning it's muscle memory, and we're undoing it. So you have to have these skills in order to expect something different. I tell people, we have to teach the class before we give the test. And the test for your dog is walking past another dog. It might be different based on the dog, but why would your dog respond differently when we haven't done anything different?
Connection is so big when you're with your dog. The other day I was with Kane. I took him to a new vet. And when he came in, I had him on the lead. We did the loop, we did a couple walks around before we went through the door. Because he always gets very nervous when he goes into like new environments. So he went in to the office, and there were two other dogs there. And obviously they were pulling, they were trying to get to him. He immediately started like shivering and shaking. And when you see your dog like that, the first thing you want to do is just pet him and just tell him it's okay. And I immediately caught myself, I just got him up, made him, get up, walk a little bit back and forth, made him sit down, and created, like we talked about before, created like a rule for that moment, like Perfect. You can't touch my leg, or you need to sit right here. And immediately he calmed down, and he laid on the floor, belly down, and just lay there and was just watching these two dogs go crazy, trying to get to him. And he completely calmed down. Because I caught I was really paying attention to what was going on, his body language, what he needed from me. And because of that created, our connection. And I was able to give him what he needed, which was creating a boundary at that moment to get his focus away from all those stimulation that was going on around him. And after that, he remained calm throughout the whole entire appointment. Everybody told him what a good boy he is and how amazing he is. And that was that, So I couldn't agree more. It's just staying connected with your dog and being aware of what is going on instead of looking at your phone or trying to talk to a friend or multitask at that moment.
But what you did there wasn't get his mind off of it. What you did there was take control of a situation he didn't want to be he didn't want to be in control of, right? So in that moment, he walks in, especially if the other two dogs are crazy, he's going, oh my God, what do I have to do in this? Like and I'm responsible for calming these dogs down.
Yeah.
And then when you give him a boundary, he goes, oh, okay, she must be in charge. Maybe these other dogs aren't my circus, aren't my monkeys, right? Like you weren't redirecting it. You were truly just directing it, which is the goal.
Yeah.
We talk a lot about, our dog's instincts. And I think, after I've talked about how I was a love first type of person before kind of getting into dog training. And it's not like I'm a completely different human being now. If I get, say when I met Brick for the first time, if I get into the instinctual mindset of, oh, I'm here to console this dog, I'm here to pet this dog is for me, I'm still going to do that. When I go home and see my home dog, I'm still giving him way too much love in the wrong scenarios because that's my instincts. But since meeting Millie, since learning new things, I've switched those instincts to get out of my own head and really. I
don't know. There's that picture. Thank God I posted on my story of you holding Brick, but it's gone. It's been over 24 hours.
I just mean with dogs I'm actively working with. But anyways, but now my instincts are working this dog. Walking with this dog, teaching this dog something instead of just sitting there and bouncing anxiety and fear off of each other and just sitting in that same place.
Easton said it. I think we said it in the last episode that Easton was on, but she said that, or maybe we didn't. and we've just talked about, it doesn't matter. Easton said that when I first came into her home, because she was a client first, and I said, and her dog is leash reactive, I said, let's try doing, no furniture and crating and all of this. Let's try rules and boundaries in the house. I was asking her to give up the only relationship that she had with her dog, right? And that's a big ask. I understand that. It kind of blew my mind when she put it to me like that, because I've had people agree to that. Like, enough people for me to have a successful business, right? And that's huge. But she did that banking on the fact that her relationship would no longer have to just be cuddling on the couch. And that feeling of, I walked Brick and Kemper this morning, and it was like, when you have a dog who's just in sync with you, it's like you're floating on air. It truly is like this insane feeling of I'm leading, and a different species is trusting me enough to make decisions for them because I am able to communicate to them because of our relationship. And I am able, because of, I don't cuddle with my dogs on the couch past, a certain behavior, right? So Brick is not getting cuddled with on the couch. Kemper does every once in a while, but I didn't put that stuff first. And so now my dog's world is bigger. I'm able to bring Kemper to places. I'm able to put Kemper literally 5 feet away from a German Shepherd trying to eat his face, and he's falling asleep because I have made decisions for him his entire life. But I understand that that's a big ask, but it's a big reward.
It's just that feeling is hard to put into words. It's so hard to like describe, and like there's no right or wrong to it. Like it's a feeling or there's not a feeling, and getting that across to a client in words is so hard to do. But that's why I love dogs, because it's the one thing that I've experienced that you truly can feel, and you're like, okay, this feels different than that frustration I was feeling beforehand.
And you can watch it happen. Yeah. Like I said on the Life of a Dog Trainer episode, it's that moment of transformation in the human where, normally they could be, they normally spend their walk, and this is another thing, looking down at their dog, staring at their dog the whole time of, what do you want to do, right? They go from looking down to like, all of a sudden their chin is up and their shoulders are back, and they just become this different person, and you can go, oh, that's the feeling. That's it, right? Now you guys are you just connected back, right? And that's the point. Like that's the affection part and that's the relationship. I think, the last 2 episodes were about place and about the crate, and we talked about those as coping mechanisms. And we said, the big 3 are crate, place, and by your side. Those are the big 3 places we want your dog to be able to turn their brain off and to just know that it's not up to them in a good way. By your side is the hardest one because of your relationship, because the human is overthinking, because the human is anxious or overconfident or unaware or whatever it is, right? That is the hardest one. But by your side is the portable one, right? By your side is the one that should always be there. And that's the most important one. And obviously on your walk, you are practicing the coping mechanism of, when you are by my side, nothing happens to you. So we don't allow interactions on walks, right? With other dogs. I don't like on-leash greetings ever. And we can get into why in a second. But the main point is that the dog gets to be neutral. The dog gets to turn their brain off when they are next to you. It's easy. It's easiest to do in the crate. It's easier to do in place, but by your side, it is hard. And once you get it, you get it. And it's the coolest feeling in the world.
Well, with a structured walk too, is the connection part of it is such a great way for us to turn off our brains too, and disconnect from all the loudness in the world. Many times we applaud dogs for being in the moment, and many people say, you have to be more like a dog and, just be in the moment, enjoy every moment, enjoy your walk, enjoy, the day. And that is our fault as humans, is that we can be in one place, but our minds are in a completely different place, and that's when you see that shift in someone, like Millie was talking about, that moment, that's when you are really in the moment. That's when you are enjoying that walk, and you're connected with your dog, and you're enjoying the day, and you're connected with that moment itself. And that's our fault as humans. We don't connect with the moment.
And we try really hard as trainers. It's hard to get a human to be like, turn off, right? Just be with your dog. We offer monthly client pack walks, which is a free service for all of our clients, no matter what type of service they've gotten, with us before. Once a month, we all meet up at a park and we just walk together. Our dog reactive dogs, our human reactive dogs, we all figure it out, right? We've been doing lately this thing where we do 10 minutes of silence of let's walk together like dogs would. Right. So we're awesome. Not talking. We're not chit chatting with the person next to us. We're not talking about our dog's issues. We're just moving together with, as humans, as dogs, all as like one pack. And it's just this kind of, it's a truly magical experience when we do that. And then the rest of the walk goes a lot easier because people just connect. They spent 10 minutes being connected to their dog. That's so important.
Yeah, and movement's tricky, right? Like we've talked about this on our Instagram page, and it's a common theme in my everyday training of like, okay, do I use movement to my advantage, or is this going to make everything worse? Who knows? Who knows, right?
Let's try both.
Exactly. But that where I'm going with that is it is instinctual for our dogs, where staying. It's a thin line to kind of choose your hard, right? But as someone who doing something that I'm good at and kind of not too hard, but not too easy, that's where I'm almost the calmest and in my zone the best. So I feel like my energy is the best when I'm moving, right? So that confidence alone allows me to have almost the most improvement on that walk, right? And so that's where I work a lot with dogs is on that walk, because I view it as that instinctual kind of whether it's food, shelter, water in that wild, they're working for it. And that it's definitely one thing to make that work calm, right? But in terms of just progressing through something, I think that leash walk is the place to start, because that's where you're like really, really getting into that issue and really trying to progress. And I that's why I love the walk. I did walks for Millie for 8 months, I want to say. And I really...
Not for my dogs, for clients. Yeah. I didn't just hire him to walk. I walk my own dogs.
Not Millie's dogs, our clients' dogs. But my suggestion, with that is anyone who wants to learn more about dogs, anyone who wants to get into dog training, that's an easy way to start. That's how I started, is go figure it out. You know what I mean? You're not going to ever be perfect at it. So go improve just like you're trying to get that dog to do. And as long as you're being intentional about it, you can take away just as much as that dog's taking.
And you'll know the feeling when you have it. I think it's important that we, that movement, when you say calm, that doesn't mean slow, right? And we can talk about kind of some practical things too. One of the things that I try to do, and I do right now with Brick, who is my 3-month-old puppy, is I try to switch up my speeds on the walk, and I try to see, okay, is the leash the thing that's keeping you with me, or am I relevant enough that you are moving with me regardless of leash pressure? Leash drills that we do, it's, doing 180 turns or 90-degree turns either into the dog or away from the dog, and seeing, okay, how much do I need to use the leash? Because a lot of people think of the walk as the leash walk, right? But, and then they go, okay, the walk is great because the dog isn't pulling, but the dog is still 5 feet ahead of them, or God forbid, 10 feet ahead of them on a flexi lead, right? But it's not about the leash. It's not about the pressure on the leash. The goal is that your dog is moving and choosing to move with you and match your speed and match your direction regardless of the leash, right? The leash is the backup. The leash is the thing that's required because there's a law about leashes, right? And because dogs and humans make mistakes, right? But it's a matter of, can I make decisions, and you are paying enough attention to me to know that I have made this decision and follow me without the leash forcing you to. That is a true walk. That's a dog in a following state, is that I can drop that leash and you're just moving with me.
Does it matter what kind of leash they use? Do you have to use a specific one to create a structured walk?
There are easier ones and harder ones. We talked about a little bit of this in the tool episode, but we use slip leads. But do you want to talk about, so you look like the bad guy? Talk about the harder ones, Connor.
We get almost every day clients walking in with a harness,
the dog is wearing a harness, the human isn't.
This is my life, everybody, just so you know. But yeah, all types of things. I personally, I wouldn't a prong collar is one thing that a lot of trainers use. I'm not too familiar and too comfortable with it. And so that's where I'm a slip lead guy, and kind of to a fault almost of like, I only use that slip lead. But I think it really offers the most clear communication for our dog. And especially, talking about that prong collar, there's a common theme that I think a lot of people think of corrections when they think of psychology based, and really Cesar Millan is what comes to my brain. Is whenever they hear psychology based training, they are like, okay, you're just going to tell my dog no. And I think that's where we separate a lot of the time. It is really, my first couple of sessions, if it's especially a puppy, I probably won't correct that dog. And I'm giving this direction over and over in not an aversive way to teach them what that means before they're just like, let me stay away from that.
Teach the class before you give the test.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Before you fail the dog on the test. That's not fair. Yeah. Right. But yeah, I mean, with the prong, we've just never used, like, it's never been something that we're like, this dog needs a prong, right? It's something that, if the dog is still not necessarily understanding the pressure on the leash with a slip lead, then we look at, okay, well, we need to go back to basics, or what's happening inside the house. Because if your dog isn't relevant to you when you are speaking their language with pressure and release, then what's happening the 95% of the time? So I don't like to go up, and I think this is what you were basically saying, is I don't like to go up in intensity of direction or correction or whatever, if I feel like I haven't done the work, right? I'd rather just, that's how we use e-collars too, this is the level that we will provide you direction. If you are not taking that direction at that level, then why? Right. And then we work on the why. So the inside stuff and all that, but harnesses we don't really use unless it's of a medical reason, which we have. We don't really use flat collars or, we can talk a little bit about the difference between like the gentle leader, like your standard gentle leader and the loop, which is what we use. We like the loop for a connection on the walk. The loop is a standard slip lead, just turned into almost like a head halter. The difference between the loop and the gentle leader is that the loop connects, or the gentle leader connects underneath the chin, and it doesn't necessarily work off of pressure and release. So it's almost like you're kind of yanking the dog's head around. We are looking for a tool that allows us to guide the dog, to give direction to the dog. We are not looking for a tool that forces the dog to walk next to us, that corrects the dog when it doesn't walk next to us, or that makes it easier for the dog to not walk next to us, right? Yeah. We are looking for a tool that provides the most clear communication. And for us, that's the loop or a regular slip lead.
Yeah, and I think the only times a client asks me if, do you think we should put a prong collar on? It's because a correction's not working. And to me, that tells me that dog doesn't know what that leash means. So upping that intensity level is fueling the fire
or that you aren't somebody that your dog believes that can correct you, right? Like I always go back to the relationship, because dogs don't do things just to do things, right? They're not going to blow you off if you've set your relationship up in the right way. Now, there are absolutely things that your dog is bound to do because it's brand new, or your dog is a certain breed. Like, okay, I took Kemper. Oh my God, I'm going to tell myself I took Kemper to the lake a couple weekends ago, and literally giant lake. There was a paper bag or a plastic bag or something in the middle of the lake, way farther than I have ever let that dog swim. Kemper is a little bit of a ball addict. Okay. He had his e-collar on.
Just a little bit.
Yeah, no, like a lot. It's a problem. We're working on it. I had his e-collar on, and he, I think, spotted that bag, and he was like, oh, cool, that's a ball out there. I got to go get it. And so he started swimming, and I'm like calling him. I call him one time, and I notice, okay, this is not working. And he swims all the way out, basically to almost the other side of the lake, right? To get, and grabs the bag, brings it back, and drops it at my feet. But I didn't, to me, yeah, that makes sense. This is not something, we don't go to the lake a lot, right? This is not something we've practiced a lot. 2, I'm very aware that we have a ball problem. But I know that I can call him off of bunnies. I know that I can call him off of any other dog whatsoever. I know that I can call him off of anything. I can call him off of a ball most of the time, given the right situation, as long as there's not another dog going for it, because then it's competition. But that to me was, things like that happen. It's not necessarily about a relationship or that I needed to turn the e-collar up or provide a correction. It was, this is something brand new and different, right? But it's always to me, okay, well, I left that lake thinking, okay, we need to come back here more. Next time we come back here, we're working on recall. Next time we come back here, we're just doing a structured walk. And that's another thing that I do is every time I go to a new place, it's structure first. I mean, short leash, there's not a lot of smelling. The second time I go, I might bookend it. Like structure walk first, excited or sniffing or whatever, like exploring in the middle, structure at the end.
I think that's where a lot of our own, I go wrong myself, is that I'm not seeing, a perfect dog. And then I'm like, okay, we're doing it wrong. Avoid it at all costs. Right. And that's what creates that cycle you're going to get into. Whereas when we say progress over perfection, even though you feel like those reps of maybe even just making it worse, that's what you feel is going on, there is a method to that madness. Mm-hmm. There is those repetitions, there is progress in it. And even as minuscule as it may be, seeing it through is what's going to get you some progress at all, rather than just regression.
And that's where we go back to, like, your walk can be just putting a leash on and taking it off, right? So it's okay to change the goal. If you've walked your dog every single day for 30 minutes around your entire neighborhood, but every single day that you pass another dog, your dog blows up, and like I said, it's just a fight for your life on the walk, then let's change the goal. Let's see, okay, well, where do we first start feeling it tense? Because then at least we're making it where you can see progress. It's not fair to be like, yeah, go 30 minutes, but I mean, light your dog up on the e-collar or put a prong on them and correct the crap out of them every single time they see another dog. That's not going to fix anything. That's suppression, right? It's, where is this coming from? Why is this happening? And so then you change the goal and you grow from there. It's always going to be messy at first, but it'll go a lot faster if you make the goal small.
And that's the difference between what you guys do as a psychology-based trainers, is you always ask why instead of trying to correct. You are looking into the why they're being reactive. Why are they not connecting with you on the walk? Why are you guys not really creating a better relationship where the dog trusts you? There's a lot of whys in your training, and you're trying to find the answers to that, which is why that for me is really what made me connect with your kind of training, is because you go really in depth with the problems. You try to find out the why of it before trying to correct the dog.
And it's the why can be a relationship based thing, and it also can be a skill set thing of, if your dog is struggling on the walk, well, do they have the skill of understanding what pressure and release means, or how to yield to your, when you give pressure on the leash? Do you understand pressure and release? Does your dog understand that when you pull the leash out, it doesn't equal excitement, right? If all of these things are not a skill set that your dog has, why would I expect your dog to listen to leash pressure that maybe you aren't giving at the right times or in the right intensity level when you're in a moment where that dog thinks that they're in danger, right? If they see another dog or whatever. And we can also, it's the same thing for happy-go-lucky dogs. If the leash equals excitement and you don't understand pressure and release, your dog doesn't understand pressure and release, you haven't practiced any neutrality whatsoever, even inside the house when things are very normal and familiar, those are not skills your dog is going to be bringing with them on the walk.
Now we're going to get a little bit into the questions. We only have about 2 questions because we did answer a lot of them as we were talking about the different types of things that we have to work through in structured walks. Now, one of them is, I think a lot of people may think the same thing is, one of the questions are, I thought sniffing was good for my dog. When can I let them sniff?
That goes back to, of course, trying to get them to potty before going on that structured walk. And that kind of makes me think of like puppy biting. Make a time in the day where you are encouraging puppy biting with play, so that every other time that dog is trying to bite you, you address it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So setting aside that time of like, hey, here's your time to go potty, will allow you to have that confidence to address them every time they're trying to create another opportunity. So it's something where you read online, sniffing is good for my dog. It decreases, wow. That was not a word. Decreases stress. All of these good things, but it goes back to that justice scale of justice balance of decision making, and who's really, who do they really view as the leader when they are going to the bathroom, when it's something as simple as that.
Yeah, I mean, I think on the walk, because there's a lot of people that maybe don't have a backyard. So I let my dogs to go to the bathroom in the backyard before I ever bring them on a walk. But when we are walking, I am moving. And then as soon as I feel that feeling, right? Not as soon as, but when I feel like my dog is the most connected to me, then we'll stop and I'll allow you to sniff for a little bit. But that doesn't mean that you can pull me everywhere. That just means, yeah, we can stop and sniff for a little bit. Or with Brick right now, we're doing like, I'll have some walks that are structured walks and some walks that are recall training walks. So I'll put him on a long line and we'll be walking kind of, my neighbors are probably going to hate me. They probably do hate me already, but we're like going up and down my street and I'm just letting him smell, right? And I'm practice calling him off of those smells so that, and enforcing with the leash. So the smelling is happening, absolutely, but it's something that is still productive for the rest of his life with me, right? That I'm still practicing a skill of, even if you're on a scent of a bunny or whatever it is, you are still going to come back to me every single time I call you. But when we are moving together, especially when I have both of my dogs with me, we're moving. And if I stop and I say, okay, and kind of maybe like I change my body language a little bit, you can smell for a little bit, but I initiate it. It's my idea. It's not you pull me somewhere. It's my idea. And then I am the one who ends it. So a lot of people, at least in my experience, have very particular kind of routines with their dogs. Like my dog always stops and smells at these bushes, right? So I tell people, okay, well, just to add a little bit of like a challenge in your walk, see if you can walk them past that and then come back to it. So because I don't want it to just be something your dog always does. I want your dog, no matter how many times if you've done it, 100 or none, to look at you and be like, are we doing this?
Yeah.
But if it's just a routine, then it's a routine. I want you to insert yourself in as much as possible with them.
Now, another question is, my dog does well in the loop. When should I go back to a regular flat collar?
We get this a lot. We get how long do I have to use the slip lead? How long do I have to use the loop? My short and sweet answer is, if it works, why change it? The further explanation of that is, dogs are all about consistency, right? And even going back to the sniffing, if you're consistently not using that leash to give them information around the same thing every single time, they're going to start looking for ways to take that one specific scenario and push that boundary a little bit of, hey, where can I really not just listen to you at all? Mm-hmm. So that consistency is key. And when you finally get to a point where that consistency is normal and that it feels good, that good feeling we've been talking about is happening more frequently than not, why would you want to change that?
Right.
That's
why fix it?
We work our whole lives to try and get you to that point.
You wanted this.
Yeah.
What do you mean? Right.
Like they say out here in the South, if it ain't broke,
don't fix it. Yeah. I mean, there are very specific times, like I will tell people to not use the loop, and that is inside the house. Or if I am working on, or if I'm at like a level of training recall, right? So Brick is barely conditioned to the loop because he's 3 months old and he is, hell on wheels, this dog. But I will intentionally not use the loop when I'm working on recall or in the house. I will intentionally not use the loop when my goal is to not have a leash eventually, right? If my goal is to eventually be able to call him off and not need a leash at all, right? Then I don't want to have extra help in that moment, right? Mm-hmm. But if I'm in a situation, I literally just came from a session where I was asked this question. If I'm in a situation where I feel like it will be beneficial to me or to the dog for my dog to have the utmost connection with me, that's when I'm going to put the loop on, because it acts off of that calming pressure point around the bridge of their nose. It's something that, if taught correctly, you can have that feeling more often than not, mm-hmm. at least in our experience, right? So it's something that if it's a situation like a farmer's market or a large group class or the vet or whatever, right? Or a walk around your neighborhood, if you want your dog to be connected with you and you have taught the loop and you feel like the loop really works, right? Use it. Now, I will not put the loop on with Kemper in day camp sometimes, but then when I'll bring him into a training session, especially if I know the dog is going to be reactive to him, I'll put the loop on because I need him to know I've gotcha, right? Mm-hmm. But it's not, the goal isn't the goal isn't taking the tool away. The goal is the thing that the tool got you, right? Or is helping you with. So if you're already at the goal of, I have a great leash walk with my dog, don't move, right? Don't change anything. Like, don't breathe too hard, right? Like, just keep it where it is.
Yeah. Well, I feel like in this episode we covered a lot regarding the structured walks. So we're gonna bring this to an end. Do you guys want to add anything else?
We have a ebook for all about leash walking. It has, literally from start to finish, everything that we talked about today and in more detail. And that's on our website, mirrorimagek9.com.
Perfect. Awesome.
Go walk your dog.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. In the next episode, we're going to talk about resource guarding, and that will also be with Connor. So don't forget.
Practice makes progress.
Practice makes progress.
There you go, Connor. Make sure to follow us on Instagram at Think Like a Dog Podcast and follow at Mirror Image K9 for training tips. If you have any questions, please reach out to us via email at info@thinklikeadogpodcast.com.